Well, here we are at My Toy Life. Hope you're having a good day. We have had a really busy last few weeks, and hopefully we can share some of that with you tonight on the show. We have a wonderful guest. We've been looking forward to being with him, and we also have our good buddy, Rick. Please like, share, and comment. And if you have a question, put it in the comment section. We'll try to get it to the guest without holding up too much time here. Here, let's bring in Rick. Rick, I wanted to show you something that I got a few days ago.
Yeah.
It's the Love Doll. It's made by Hasbro back in 1971.
Oh.
She has real eyelashes. Now, I've got her clothes, but she's so fragile, I did not want to dress her. But she's got real eyelashes, and I'm sure her hair can probably be fixed. And I've got all the clothes, and I was able to pick that up for $10.
Oh, nice.
Really nice.
The box is cool.
Yeah, it is. And of course, the Bobby is ready to go. He is ready to go. I'm getting people requesting it, so we've sent out a few already. The one thing I'm proud of a lot of it, but I'm really proud of this whistle. I don't know if you can, the whistle is really neat. Looks just like a real whistle.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. So what is new in your zoo?
Oh, I tried to find my my custom Xenome astronauts that I had painted because I wanted to show them, but unfortunately I have no idea where they are. so I grabbed some other figures.
I know that feeling. That's okay. We'll get it another show.
So I grabbed my
John Wayne.
Sideshow John Wayne, Pacific Marine. I have his M1 Garand, but it's upstairs.
Yeah.
So here he is. Unfortunately, you can't see it, but believe it or not, one of the cats managed to sleep on top of him because he was in a box and the box top caved in. So he's covered in kitty hair, which I'm not very happy about, but I can get it off.
Yeah, just take some tape, ball it up, and just go like that, and that'll take it off.
This is a guy I put together quite a while ago. This is he's got the loose head because his elastic gave way.
Okay.
This is a Palatoy Eagle Eye, and he's done up in a 21st century Recon Marine from Vietnam.
From Vietnam, yeah.
And this little butt pack right here,
yeah,
I actually made that. That's molded clay that then I painted.
Wow, that's nice.
And the rest of them is 21st century. He's got regular Joe boots. But these Palatoy Eagle Eye, they are fantastic figures.
They are.
And one other one I got to show is a good old crew cut Air Police.
Yeah.
Beautiful uniform.
You seen the guys who paint the laces white?
Yeah, paint the boots. What I did was, I bought some ascots from Cotswold.
Okay.
So that'll add white up here, and he doesn't look right because he's not wearing they didn't give him a tie. I think he should have a tie on there. But the white ascot will, balance out the colors real nice.
Yes.
And I have another one.
I think that's the one that was modeled after Beckman.
Yeah, it has his name on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
This one is a 40th anniversary, Joe.
Okay.
He's got a bum.
Those uniforms are pretty hard to come by, aren't
they? Yeah, and when you find them there, I have one in a package too, and I sent a fourth one to Randy Beloga. because he had a bunch. He had this nice display of military police, and this was the one uniform he didn't have, so I sent that to him. This guy's got a bum
guy,
but I got to replace an arm for him. That's all I got.
Well, let's get our guest in here. We've been chomping at the bit to Derryl, so let's bring in Derryl.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Wow,
good.
So good to see you. Look like you're in your Joe cave there.
I am in my. I'm in my office.
Are you? Are you? Well, I had a question earlier from somebody. They said, ask him if he's going to write another book.
Well, I certainly hope so. So, the last book that came out was the Star Wars. Actually, I guess it not officially called Star Wars, but the Vintage Collection Archive Edition. And that came out a couple years ago. And I'm working on databases for a couple of books. I certainly would like to do more. And my hope is that they'll come out before too long. Well, maybe a couple of years, but I won't comment on which might be coming out first, but I definitely want to, I want to do more books. Could be G.I. Joe, could be Star Wars.
Well, I think I remember you talking on one of the shows where somebody said that they had taken pictures of your G.I. Joes and still had those pictures. Is that true? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. My collaborator, Curtis Fukuda, who I worked with on the my first book, the Collectible G.I. Joe, he still has all of the original transparencies for the first book, and he's got they were the Courage Books or Running Press returned them to him, and he's got them. We just have to go get them scanned, and then we'll have perfect digital copies of my book. That would be very valuable if I was going to do another updated version of that book. So it's possible we'll do that, and it's I'm also thinking about a couple other books too. So
is that book still selling, or is it out of print?
Oh, it was out of print from the first year that it was published. Yeah.
So if you get it now, you've got a special copy, huh?
Yeah. The publishing company sold those books through. I remember walking into a Costco in San Diego when that book came out in 1999. I saw them, piled high at a Costco, and then I actually bought about 22% of the press run myself, and I sold those to people who signed up for an autograph copy, things like that. So I ended up having like a large part of the production run, and that kind of helped wipe it out faster. But they did sell it to everybody, clubs and everything like that.
Cool. So you were talking before the show about the Texas show. Why don't you share some of that?
So yeah, I went to the DFW Joe show this year. I was an invited speaker. Greg Brown and I go way back a long time. He is the owner of Cotswold Collectibles, and he runs the DFW show. And he invited me to be a speaker, to reprise a couple of the talks that we gave at G.I. Joe cons in 2017 and 2018. And so my buddy Todd Pleasant and I had interviewed a lot of the original Adventure Team designers who are really the unsung heroes of the G.I. Joe designer lore. Everybody knows the 1960s Joe creators, thanks to John McCligg's book. And then everybody knows the 1980s and 90s Joe creators, because that's what the biggest collector concentration of today is, collectors of a Real American Hero product line, and so those designers are very well known. And another collaborator I have that I've worked with, Dan Klingensmith, has done a wonderful job of bringing all of those designers to light. Anyway, the unknown was the 1970s Adventure Team designers. So Todd Pleasant and I have been interviewing them and bringing their stories to fore. And so we had updated presentations in Dallas of the Adventure Team line and the designers who worked on it.
Yeah, Matt Sog is commenting, and I think I got to watch a little bit of his recording of that last night.
Oh yeah.
So it's circulating. Maybe you can post that in our group there later, or I will.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll get it out, because the more that we hear about these things, the more we learn, the more we understand.
Yep.
You guys were there. You were behind the scenes, and you know all the people. We either maybe saw a picture of them or maybe read their name somewhere, but we don't know the backstory.
That's right. And our goal is to get their stories out because they're relatively unknown, and hopefully that's the book I would like to do next is a detailed Adventure Team book. But right now there's nothing definitive in the works. I think I'm still trying to figure out what the publishing model is, because Kickstarter seems to be the only viable route. And I'm hoping for another one that we don't have to go the Kickstarter route, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that's the next book I'm able to do.
He also said he bought your volcano jumper. Was that something you were involved with?
So I had bought another good pieces from another collection with really high grade Adventure Team figures, especially a lot of those 1970s window box sets like Volcano Jumper, Aerial Recon, Smoke, or Emergency Rescue, things like that. I had some really high grade sets there, and a lot of them sold at the show. So,
you sold them at the show. Oh, cool.
I sold them at the show. So they weren't the ones that were in the book or the ones from my personal collection, but it's from another collection that I was able to pick up. So really high grade stuff.
Well, that's good that people were able to get those.
Yeah,
because those probably are hard to find, or at least don't come up that often.
That's right. Especially high grade examples of the 1972 the window box sets are really hard to get, and I think very prized, especially when they're in a high grade condition with all the accessories. So I've seen Adventure Team really take off in the last few years versus the the 1960s military. So I think there's a really renewed appreciation for kind of getting them all, and especially getting some of the variants and things like that.
Yeah, the theme about Adventure Team is the one thing that I think is continuing to be captured by the collectors right now. They like either the originals, or they do like some of the new ones that are coming out. And I've seen some really good. Some of the shows have put out good adventures, and I've seen personal collectors, creators make some new adventures. Those are really interesting, and they seem to be accepted real well.
Well, one of the fun things that we were able to do at the DFW Joe show is we Todd Pleasant and I reprised our Unsung Heroes of the Adventure Team Part 2, and we did that on Sunday. And then Greg Brown provided us with prototypes of some of the things that they're planning to release from those unreleased prototypes that we were able to show. So we had images and artwork of ideas that were looked at for the Adventure Team, but were never released. And Cotswold is planning to release at least 2 of those vehicles. It's so cool to see them in 3D form, thanks to Jim Egner. Actually brought those to life. He's the one who 3D modeled and printed those first versions. So it's really awesome to see Cotswold step up and want to produce some of those unproduced prototypes that were so cool but never done. So we're seeing kind of a new era in Adventure Team, not only with ideas like this, but with a lot of the 3D printed things that Sean Huckster has done for Cotswold Collectibles that really make the
Right.
adventure team the super expandable concept we all knew it was, where, anything fits in the theme, whether it's, spy or space or, kind of computer, futuristic computer, even retro computer stuff. It all has a
Right.
home in the adventure team. It's a really cool era, cool new
Well,
time for people to innovate around the theme.
that yellow vehicle that you had on the desk, does Joe lay down in that?
Yes, there's
Okay.
two vehicles. There's one called the Camel, which
Okay.
has treads at the base, and there's another one called I'm not sure we have the name for it, but it has screws where the pontoons are, and the screws actually propel the vehicle forward. Imaginary screws, but
Right.
if there were motors in there, it would propel the vehicle forward. And in both of these examples, the screw and the screw-driven one, swamp vehicle, and then the Camel, they are both, they have Joe very prone. So they're very flat vehicles.
Okay.
So they're cool. They're more advanced than, say, a backpack vehicle.
Mhm.
But yeah, both of them are prone and super cool.
Did they look as good as they did on the video?
They look great.
They
They
look
look
cool.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
They had the adventure team yellow too.
Yeah, they had the Adventure Team yellow. They look fantastic. And I'm really hoping that when Greg at Cotswold, offers these up to fans to buy, that it creates a market for them to do the other versions of these vehicles, because there are several different colorways, slightly different, accessory layouts, things like that. That was the whole goal back in the day. And a G.I. Joe designer named Joe Perez, who was charged with creating the Camel, he brainstormed a lot of iterations around this vehicle. And some of them were, green and orange, but they were all different in their purpose. But they all picked up the Adventure Team colorways. And it's really fun to think about what could be with this series. They're really cool.
Hey Rick, I don't want to be ignoring you. If you got a question, go ahead.
It's Rick.
I do have a question. So as a seller, and you're selling this Adventure Team stuff that you had, what was the age range of the people buying it? Did you find, people who had it when they were kids, or were they younger buyers?
I think for the most part, it was people who had it when they were kids. So they would have been my age, which would have been pushing probably the late 50s.
My age too.
But there were some young kids coming by showing appreciation for the classic G.I. Joe sets. But I noticed the younger kids that were coming by, they were also fans of, say, Valaverse and what Bobby Val is doing in kind of the 6-inch scale figures as well. Yeah. So they're not, specifically about G.I. Joe. They're just about cool things in all its forms. So, yeah. But I think most of the Adventure Team fans are older guys who played with it. And what I did notice is there are newer collectors in the hobby, which is very interesting to see. This is something that we haven't seen for a while. But and I make it my job to talk to people and find out, like, how far along in their collecting are they? If I don't recognize the name from having been someone who's been collecting for 25 or 30 years, because I do know quite a few, people who've been collecting that long. Yep. But there were a lot of fans who just have started collecting in the last few years. They collect the things they like. They don't want to go wide and be completists. They just have, a relatively small area in their home, whether it's a couple of shelves that their wife allows them to have, or, a display case or something like that. So they want to be very judicious about what they get. But those were some of the Adventure Team buyers, that I found.
Well, it's good to hear that there's new people. There's a lot of new names in the Facebook groups,
Yeah.
So because that's been a question in some of these, podcasts or whatever you call them, is where's the where's the hobby heading, as far as vintage Joe goes. And it
So
doesn't.
yeah, what I found is the new collectors who are coming in are being more judicious in in what they purchase. They're not going to go nuts. They're not going to go wide. They probably wouldn't be a target for anything that like let's say Hasbro would make or something like that. They're just picking up what they like, and they're the ones who are going to go to the GI Joe show every year and get a couple of pieces.
Yeah.
There are, on the other hand, a good number of old time collectors who are exiting the hobby, and their collections find their way to market, whether it's via a super collector like Ace Allgood, who he collects and sells, but he also buys a lot of collections. And myself, I like to buy collections and sell them and upgrade when I can. But pretty much, I could be retired when I was laid off from Hasbro in 2018. My wife and I looked at the likelihood of me getting a job in the toy industry, and it was pretty low given my kind of seniority and the cities where the big toy companies were, like Los Angeles. We did not want to move to Los Angeles. So we looked at the financials and decided that if we moved to a place that had a very low cost of living, like where we currently live in Chattanooga, Tennessee, I could afford to be retired. But I found that I just can't stay retired. I love buying and selling and collecting. It's just in my blood from a very young age. My dad was also a big collector of different things, and I can't help it. So that's really what I'm enjoying doing in kind of my quote unquote retirement, is going around buying things, selling things, upgrading my collection, things like that. So, and in doing so, I've learned that, there's a number of collectors who are just leaving the hobby for whatever reason, whatever life stage, monetarily, they get divorced. They just can't afford to keep it up anymore, have just lost interest. And that's being offset a little bit by some new collectors, but I think not at the level we'd like to see to know that the hobby is, getting bigger. I think the hobby is definitely getting a little, shrinking a little bit.
Well,
Okay.
I'm finding that they're gravitating to whatever they're attracted to or whatever is their niche. And that is kind of what they're looking for. They're looking for that niche and more of that particular thing that they like. And so, as you said, you used a nice word for being particular.
Yeah, right.
Because they're more particular than they have ever been. If
Yes.
somebody's going to buy a particular set or a particular adventure or whatever it might be, they're going to hold out till they get the one that they can't resist. They're not going to buy the first one. They're not going to buy the first one. Or if they do, they'll say something like, well, I'll buy this now and until I can get the one that I want.
I think that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. They're just more particular and more, I don't like to use the word picky, but they are picky. and in a good way. It's a good way.
I think so.
But I just love it. Like we were talking, I was at Joe Fest because it's closer to where I live, and we only went for about 3 hours, but it was a madhouse. It was mad. I didn't even get to go to every vendor. And part of the problem is you stop somewhere, you talk to somebody, and then before you know it, 30 minutes is gone. It just, and you see some old friends. That was another thing that's good, is to see old friends. I saw at least 6 of my old buddies from Joe Atlanta, and it was just like old times again. Now, one of the things.
Oh,
go ahead.
Gary, let me ask you though. I I've been to Joe Fest, I think, for three or four of the first 5 or 6 years it's been in existence.
Okay.
I think it's been in existence 5 years. Is that right?
Yeah, something like
That
that.
sound right? So I've been there 3 times. Very, very little 12-inch GI Joe stuff has been there. Is that what did this year look like?
I would say there were at least 10, maybe 15 booths with 12-inch.
Are you
But
kidding me?
oh yeah,
What about
uh,
vintage stuff?
I was just telling Rick, the one set that caught my attention was the lifeguards, the Action Man lifeguards. Um, Beautiful set, but he wanted too much money for it. I just wasn't willing to part with that much money for it. That probably is one of the few sets that I would like to get at some point. Now, last year when I went, the difference, the contrast that I saw last year from this year is Rick just put up John Wayne, okay, in the Marine uniform. Well, last year they had some generic Joes in those uniforms, the Dragon uniforms, the Marine uniforms and stuff, and they were selling them for $12 a piece. He couldn't. He said, "Take 10 of them, please. I'll give you a deal if you take 10 of them." But this year they were $60 and $70 a piece. Same exact type Joes with uniforms. So the price had now gone up. So I don't know what was up with that. But last year, I bought 5 or 6 Joes because they were just reasonable. Well, below reasonable. But this year, I was more selective in what I bought.
Wow. Wow. So
Yeah,
that's impressive that there are more dealers there this year. What about with vintage?
Dean was
the reason I go to the show is I also collect 3 3/4 Joe, but I've already hit a lot of the things on my wish list. And traditionally, it's been a very strong show for the 3 3/4 Joe line. But there's been almost nothing for 12-inch vintage Joe from the 60s and 70s. What did that look like this year?
No, there wasn't a lot of that. Wasn't a lot of that. I would say maybe 2 booths. 2 booths had the vintage, and they were priced. I mean, they were real pricey. But you're getting. It's kind of like Ace. You know what you're getting when you buy something from Ace. You know
That's
that.
right. That's right.
So if you're looking for vintage and you're being specific about that, then you're going to have to expect to pay for it.
Right. Yeah. So, Rick, did I understand that your John Wayne was covered with pussy hair? I mean, sorry, pussy cat hair.
Yes, that's exactly correct.
Pussy cat hair.
You just turned my show into X-rated.
And when I get my hands on that pussy cat, I'm going to wring its neck.
Well, we'll put a disclaimer on.
It would. Yeah, it would have made good video if this was running when I found him and discovered that the cat had taken a nap on him. I was not happy.
Well, see, your wife puts up with the Joes. You have to put up with the cats.
It's my fault because I don't have them stored correctly. So if something happens.
So Terry or Rick, it looks like you have a lot of fun with just customizing and putting a lot of things together, right?
Yeah.
Or do you like to keep stock things? The sideshow, Green Beret just stays the sideshow Green Beret, but you've got a lot of stuff. You showed those 40th Honor Guard, figures, or at least the Dreams and Visions one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So are those all on the shelf next to each other, or what's your kind of strategy? If you have one for what you like.
He's showing your strategy.
There's no strategy.
Things you like, which is great. I love that.
That's how, you was talking about, we were talking about people were being picky and just getting what they like. So that's what I do with what's out there today. I don't like Valiverse and Classified. I'm not a hardcore. I just buy the figures that catch my eye.
Yeah.
So that's, if you look behind me, some of them are, there's a lot of custom stuff. There's like Action Man vehicles that I just got because I just thought they were cool looking.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
was lucky, price wise, I was lucky. And I'm not one of those, even though I had, I played with Joe's from 64 till the end of the Adventure Team line, but I'm not a completist. I don't have to have everything, I don't even have everything that I had as a kid. I grab what I like. That's it.
Well, I really respect that. Over time, I've had to, just because of the number of things I collect, I've had to really focus down. So I'm less about, like, I don't know if I have any Action Man left anymore, just because I've had to focus on GI Joe. I do like the modern GI Joe, from the kind of the reintroduction of the talking Duke from Target all the way through the the 2005 line. I I'm I want to be a completist for that.
Yeah.
So it just takes up a lot of room to do all that and all the vehicles that came with that.
Yeah.
And over time, I've just had to concentrate. I do have some foreign stuff a little bit because I have some new GI Joe, which is the second version of the Japanese GI Joe that Takara Tomy came out with. I really like the new GI Joe line. And but it's one of those things where in the future, it's like, can I keep collecting this? Do I have room? Do I have the money to really be committed to being a completist in this? Or is that something that eventually I'll kind of liquidate just to keep focused on my current stuff?
Yeah.
So these are questions that I deal with all the time. And
Well,
one thing
I was just going to say, I hate to tell you that most of my stuff is in bins.
most of my
Even-
stuff is in bins too, Terry, and I really regret that. Actually, the only GI Joe stuff I have on display right now are prototypes. I don't even have my Adventure Team stuff on display, pretty much because my other display cases are full of modern Mego or Disneyland or Batmobiles or prop replicas or Indiana Jones stuff. It's like I'm all over the map. There's too many things I like.
Yeah.
Well, in my living room, I have two bookshelves, and they're filled with Joe. Those mostly are my favorites, I guess. And then in my man cave, if you want to call it that, I have 7 shelves that are filled. And then what I can't get on those shelves are in. My wife said, "What is that? The 42nd bin you got now?" And I hate to say it, but I've got a whole toy store here. Maybe y'all do too.
Yep.
I have. Yeah. What do you have, Rick?
Oh yeah, I could fill a store. Yeah, I could have a nice
Yeah.
little mom and pop antique store.
I could fill a store. I have 3 offsite storage units filled with toys, and they have all my archives, and it's just too much stuff.
You ever been to Brian's warehouse in Atlanta?
I never have. Brian Becker or
no,
which
Tatum.
Brian?
Tatum. Brian Tatum.
No, I haven't.
He doesn't take very many people to see it, and I've never been yet. But someone told me that it was as big as one of these dollar stores, and it was just shelf after shelf after shelf, and he won't sell nothing.
All right, good for him.
So I'm telling you, it's must be beautiful to see it.
He's got a storage solution. So
Yeah.
what I would be worried about is the dust and things like that. But
cats, you gotta watch out for cats. That's what you gotta watch out for.
And cats, yeah, exactly.
Well, it kind of makes you wonder though, because I wonder. I look at stuff and I think I don't even know what's in these boxes anymore.
Right.
So I say to myself, how am I enjoying this if I don't even know what I got? So I'm kind of in that mode right now where I'm like trying to figure out a way to kind of move some things, get rid of them. And I hate to. Everything I've sold, I wish I didn't.
I hate to. I really hate to.
But what's the, I
Well,
remember
you see
last year
the
when I was selling at the flea market last year, and I was going through stuff, and I found behind some boxes, I found a GI Joe motorcycle, not an original one, one of the ones from the 2000s, classic collection. And I said, "Oh, I can't sell that." I said, "Dude, you haven't seen it for a year. Sell it." So off to the flea market it went. And I wish I didn't, but the funny thing is I have that motorcycle like 2 times over. It's loose, but
Exactly.
I still
Look at
have it.
the comment from Skunkworks Studios. I feel like that every day. Then I think about my son and all the stuff he'll enjoy.
There you go.
Well, I don't.
well,
Well, I
my
challenge. I
gra-
challenge
my
that.
grandson, yeah, because my grandson, I took him to Joe Lanta at 5 years old, and he made dioramas. He built things every year for about 7 or 8 years, and now he don't want nothing to do with it. Now,
Well,
it
I
is
learned.
possible that it got into his, into his genes, and he'll come back, but right now, no.
Well, Terry, I learned firsthand when I was on the GI Joe team, leading the GI Joe brand at Hasbro from 2001 to 2004. My kids were super into GI Joe, but the minute I moved off onto the Star Wars team, they dropped GI Joe like a hot potato. So
Right.
what I learned was that what they liked was more of a reflection of kind of looking up to me to
Yes.
kind of what I was doing and what
Right.
I liked. And when I wasn't doing that anymore, they their enthusiasm waned. So it told me their enthusiasm wasn't really legitimate. And from that point on, I was very hands off with them. I kind of watched them for what they liked. When they got into Pokemon cards and things like that, that was authentic. When one of the proudest days of my life as a dad was when the kids came back from the neighbor's house and said, "Dad, we played the most awesome game today. It was called Dungeons and Dragons." And I'm like, they found it authentically. I didn't show them Dungeons and Dragons. They didn't like it because it was a reflection of what I liked. They found it on their own, and it's lasted, to
Right.
this day. So it's like what we like isn't necessarily a genuine thing, unless you really see it in their teens. They just do it by themselves, independent from us, and if they really embrace that. Otherwise, I was very careful not to kind of imprint anything more on them beyond GI Joe.
I don't know if this really has anything to do with it or not, but it seems like today kids play differently. I never played
Right.
inside the house. When I was a kid, we never played in the house. My grandkids, they play in the house. They'll build forts and they'll build their Lego sets or whatever right in the house. We were chased outside. So, we played in the dirt, we dug ditches, we built forts. They don't play like that anymore. So
They don't play like they don't play like that anymore. It's like
no,
one
they
of
just
the
don't.
things I realized at Hasbro that I was doing, I was making toys. Our team was making toys. I was privileged to lead that team. And it took me a number of years at Hasbro to realize that what I was really making were tools, things that empowered personal storytelling, which was to me the most powerful thing I could possibly be privileged to do, is empower kids to do that kind of play, to have that kind of play experience that we had growing up, which was
Right.
unscripted, the stories that we created in our minds. G.I. Joe is just the greatest toy ever created. There's no question, because all of the play that originated from G.I. Joe were stories that were made up by the people playing with G.I. Joe. And that's why I believe it has such a powerful collector's base, even among the 3 3/4 fans. And it was, I played inside, I played outside, I played everywhere, but it was such rich storytelling. I have vivid memories of all of that. I was so dispirited in my last years at Hasbro with, what had become of kids playing. It was, so much. It was just like gone were the imagination driven play patterns, and it was just
Right.
all like movie stuff. Luckily we still sold a lot of lightsabers, which is great because lightsabers are all about, kind of creating your own battle. It's less about scripted play, but it's more about free play. But I really wish that kids had the ability to free play with imagination like we did. It seems to be gone.
Well, one of my neighbors came over and saw my Joes, and he was a little 8-year-old boy. So I gave him a GI Joe. And a few days later, his grandmother said, he's wanting to know what to do with all this. So I gave him a couple of vehicles. I gave him some pigs and some chickens and some animals and stuff. She sent me a picture and she said, he's out here making a farm. And he'd already given the pigs names. So, hey, with that one kid, we were getting it going again. I thought that was cool. Skunk Word says it's pretty dependent on the family.
Yeah.
True changed, but being over 50 with a 5-year-old is a wildly unique dynamic. We're an old school Midwestern family.
Hey,
we have to make him come inside. That's good.
Good for you. That's the way to do it. It's like not everybody's like that anymore. I think most people are afraid for their, either they don't have much in their backyard, or kids are overscheduled, after school, they've got soccer practice, or, whatever dreams that we have as parents for them to become professional athletes, all this stuff, right? They're overscheduled. They have very little time, and, they've got to go study. It's like, it's just really, we're different as a society than we were back then.
Yeah. Well, I think one of my favorite things that we did with my grandson is that, Mike was over here almost every day because we took care of him when he was little, and he was over here almost every day. And one day he probably was about 7, and he said, can we go play GI Joe outside? And I said, sure. And so I let him pick a few Joes, and what we ended up making a trench for some World War I Joes, Even had the little basket with the pigeon in it, and we had shell bowls and picks and stuff. That was a fun day. That really was a fun day, digging the trenches for World War I GI Joes. Skunk Word, give it a beer, I guess. Okay, go ahead.
Jeff, because I think Jeff's boy got bit by a spider.
Oh, okay.
Brown recluse. So maybe he could let us know how his boy is doing.
Ooh.
Yeah, Jeff, tell us how your boy is doing. We kind of want to know that. How's he doing?
But other than that, I didn't play outside much. I was mostly inside. But I grew up in the city, so there wasn't too many.
It's a little bit. Funny story about the city is that I was in Philadelphia when I was 6 years old. And so we didn't play outside much either. But my mother let me go around the corner and play with these kids who had made these motorcycles out of orange crates with roller skates. And so we were running these little roller skate motorcycles, and I got hit by a car. Oh, it almost killed me at 6 years old. Now, my mother did not let me go outside for many years.
Good.
The little boy is fully recovered.
Yeah,
got on it early, and he was lucky. Well, praise.
Oh, that's great.
That's wonderful. Great to hear. And 2 of my favorite Joes is the World War I Doughboy and Sergeant York. I love those 2. That's what we played with that day. Those 2 figures. Yeah. We
Yeah.
got to get Skunkworks on here. Yeah, have him come on and talk about his stuff too.
Oh, for
I had a
sure.
question. I had a question, Derryl. What's one of your fond memories of working for Hasbro?
Oh, I have so many. I was there for 18, I
Oh
think
my goodness,
18,
long time.
Yeah, that's
18 and a half, 18 and a half years. Almost. Was it almost 19? I think so. No, it's almost 18 full years. I have, man, I have so many. It was a wonderful place. The people there are unbelievable, especially at the beginning of my time there. I just could not express like how awesome the collaboration was. It really felt like a team where everybody was pulling the same oars. So it's the working with the people there are really the strongest memories. But I loved my time on GI Joe. And I was on GI Joe for, I would say I was over GI Joe for most of my 18 years there. There were three or four stints, I think, and they were brief where I wasn't over GI Joe. So one of those was the first movie, the Rise of Cobra.
Uh-huh.
I had given up GI Joe to go to Star Wars, and one of the reasons was I read the script and I did not like it, and I did not think it was going to be really good for the brand. But I also felt it would have been career suicide had I taken the job to head up GI Joe and then really made it known how I felt about the script. So instead, I went to Star Wars, and I had a phenomenal run on Star Wars. But then I was given GI Joe back when Rise of Cobra failed. It was a disaster at retail. It came back to me, and during that time, I was able to fan the flames of what the designers were doing, which is fantastic work to introduce a new 3 3/4 Joe. Unfortunately, not really. 12-inch was dead. It was
Right.
not a successful format at that time. But so my memories are really tied up in kind of a lot of different things we did at the time, both GI Joe, Star Wars, and one of my favorite things that I ever did there was Indiana Jones. We did a line based on the Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, and it was it was really a challenge for management. They said it was going to be a disaster that Indiana Jones is such a small line, and I predicted what we could do, and we exceeded that, and then unfortunately over exceeded that because sales said, "This is great. We want more of it." And I said, "No, that's too much." And they brought in too much of it, and it ultimately killed the line. But launching a successful Indiana Jones line was another highlight of my time there.
So you were involved with the big ones and the little ones for Indiana Jones?
Yeah, the whole line. So
Okay.
yeah, we launched everything. I was responsible for everything. So a very robust 3 3/4 line, but also I knew there was an opportunity for 12-inch fans to jump into to some indie figures that they hadn't seen before, and
Right.
we did pretty well with that. Not enough to sustain its own 12-inch line long term, but we definitely made more than a few of those figures for sure. So that was fun, really fun.
Yeah, Skunkworks says the mail-in of the Ark. The first time my son showed it to me, I was amazed by that.
That's great.
It is an awesome piece.
Yep.
Well, I believe. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'll say that 1/6 scale arc, the mail-in, that was awesome. That was an awesome promotion. So thanks, Skunkwork Studios. I'm glad you like it. You like a lot of the same things I do. So that was really fun to do. We had to do the gold vac metal plating on that. That was really neat. And then for the 3 3/4, we did I think it was a crystal skull alien on the throne, not as legendary as the Ark for sure.
Was that a mail-in too?
That was a mail-in as well. So we had a mail-in for both audiences. Okay. We might have even had a mail-in for the Galactic Heroes too, I think, if I recall.
Okay.
So
okay, I'm gonna have to check that out. See if my son has that. My son has almost everything you guys have ever made.
That's a lot.
The only thing you don't have is Boba Fett shooting a rocket. That's the only one you don't have.
Oh yeah, that was the 2009, I believe, vintage collection mail-in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I started my son off with the Indiana Jones 1/6, loved it, and hooked him on 12-inch figures. Way to
Oh, that's
go.
great. That's awesome.
Way to go. Uh, that's awesome.
Hey,
Well,
what
somebody,
Indiana Jones was a great line. It was one of my favorite lines,
well,
actually.
somebody posted a figure that they wanted $12 for, and I bought it actually for the costume. And when it got here, it was the talking Indiana Jones. I couldn't tell that in the picture, but when I took the clothes off and I said, I ain't selling this. This guy talks.
Nice. Very nice. There you go. Ah,
There you go. There you go.
very nice.
I managed to
You got,
scoop him off of eBay for cheap like several years ago. I was
oh,
surprised.
man.
Good job, Rick. You got it. And
Really,
you got the rare
really
version with
nice.
the reversed package. Actually, all the stuff I'm seeing from you guys is reversed. Is that
Yes. The seller didn't know what they had.
so? Terry, what is that with everything reversed? Am I doing something wrong here on my settings?
We have to go into the
Oh,
camera and say mirror, and that
Oh,
turns it around. Is mine messed up too? Let me see if mine's messed up
yeah.
too.
yeah, yours
Yeah,
are all backwards.
yeah. Got to go into the camera. Let's
I'll
see
fix
here,
that.
and
I'll fix that next
you go
week.
to mirror.
And you're supposed to mirror. Okay, got
There
it.
you go.
There we go. See, now it'll be fine.
Yeah, you're great. Okay, good. I thought you all had rare variations of stuff.
No,
Mine doesn't have that option in the camera. Whoops, I just have
um,
disable.
there should be a let's see, at the dots, maybe the 3 little dots there.
I don't have the dots. Anyway, let's not bog down the show and
Okay.
in
Okay.
that.
Okay. Well,
You
we're
can
at the
change
point
it.
where we get the mayonnaise jars out now.
There really isn't a
See ya,
mayonnaise.
see ya, Jeff. Have fun making dinner.
There
Yeah,
is
see
no
ya.
mayonnaise jar. Rick writes these questions up each week on a brand new piece of paper with a crayon.
Okay.
These are actually, Derryl, these are actually the original questions from the first time I did them. So, and you know how these work, right?
Ye-
You know that once you answer these questions, that everyone in our viewing audience will know everything about you.
Oh, great. Okay. I have no secrets. Let it on.
All right. And these questions have been numerically numbered, so they're in precise order and developed by our lab, the Toys Are Fun lab. You ready? You ready to participate?
Let's go.
In your opinion, what's the best sandwich?
Oh, it's the sandwich. Well, let me answer. I make an incredible sandwich that I crave for, on the days that I want it when I get home. But do you want a commercially available sandwich?
No,
No,
tell us.
no.
No, tell us any
Let's get
Oh,
your
sandwich.
home.
it's my salami and sharp cheddar cheese sandwich. It's unbelievable.
What kind of salami?
I use I just get it at Walmart. It's their hard salami.
Hard salami.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sliced thin though. It has to be thin sliced.
Yeah.
Can't be
Yeah.
thick sliced.
No. We all know my answer to this. Cats or dogs?
Ooh, you got me there because I grew up being a cat person, and then my family surprised me with a puppy that I didn't ask for,
Oh.
and guess who took care of that dog the most for its whole life? I love that dog. I think I've become a dog person.
Oh,
I like them both, but dog.
what's your favorite action movie?
Oh, Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Sorry, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Number
It's a good
one, ahead of Star Wars.
That was an experience going to see that. It really was. They did a
Oh,
nice
yeah.
job.
Oh yeah.
In your opinion only, what's the scariest animal?
The scariest animal?
Yeah.
I think. Let's see. I've met venomous snakes out in the wild, hiking, things like that. I'm not really worried about that. the scariest animal, I think, for me are spiders. Like, uncover. I deal, a lot with like, just like the stuff stored at my parents' house and whatnot. And every time I uncover like a trove of stuff and there's a spider there, I'm like, oh man, is that a black widow? I don't know. So
Yeah,
there's
you
a
got
lot of
those.
spiders there.
Yeah,
Spiders, maybe.
spiders work. Yeah. Superman or Batman?
Batman, 100%.
Yeah, Superman's too perfect.
I can be Batman. I can't. I'm not a guy. I'm not a guy from the planet Krypton.
Right.
And let me tell you another thing. DC Comics had to make stuff up to make Superman interesting. You saw the problem they had in the 60s and the 70s. They invented, in addition to green kryptonite, they had to create all these other kryptonites like red kryptonite and white kryptonite and gold kryptonite, things like that. So they made these other things, but also magic became Superman's weakness. Things like hypnosis, all these other things they had to invent to make him seem kind of weak. It's Batman 100% of the time, in my opinion.
What's your favorite smell? Speaking of going through old collections.
That's a good one. I like a lot of stuff. It's like I don't eat a lot of bread, but for some reason, fresh baked bread, man, smells so good. And I don't even eat bread, but that hits me.
Right, this is a big one. That's why I put it right in the middle, because it kind of brings everything together here. Do you believe in Bigfoot?
No, I don't. I wish I did.
Oh,
It's the scientist in me. The scientist. In another life, I was a scientist before I became a toy guy. And I'm sorry. If Bigfoot existed, we would have known it by now.
We got to respect the rational mind. Speaking of that, who's your favorite movie star?
Right now, I will see anything that let's see, not Ryan Reynolds, but the other Ryan is in.
Gosling? Ryan Gosling?
Anything that Ryan Gosling is in, I will see.
You like him? All right. What's one thing you own that you should throw away? This is a big one.
Nothing. I do a pretty good job about throwing away anything that I don't use or want or donate or donate. I do a pretty good job of pruning it. I will say that.
That's that scientist talking again.
Yeah.
How about a place you'd like to visit that you've never been to?
Antarctica. So I can answer that because I'm looking at the last year I went on a Viking cruise with my wife. We went on a Rhine River cruise in Europe, and now I get all the Viking, the magazines that have all their upcoming cruises. And I see that scientific ship that they have that goes to Antarctica. And I told my wife, I said, what about going on this ship? She said, I'm not going to go. You've got to make your own money from toy sales or whatever to go on that. And if you do, you can go. So I want to go to Antarctica, but I have to raise the money myself to do it. I can't use house money.
Is it one of those things where they go out to sea for like 3 months or something? Or
no, it's one of those where I think it's a 2-week cruise, but it's a scientific ship, which means I don't know how real it is, but they engage everybody on board with kind of experiments where I think you're pulling up water and looking through the microscope and you're kind of looking under the ice and, kind of stuff like that. I do want to do this someday if you actually get to set foot on Antarctica, like at the McMurdo station or something like that. I don't know. From reading it, it looks like you just get real close, but then you go back to Chile. You don't quite get there. So I'm super hesitant about it, but I'm gonna look into it more because I would really love to go to Antarctica someday to just say I set foot on the continent.
All right, this is the last question. This is one that sums it all up. That's why it's
okay. This is it. Ties it all together. It's the big one.
We're talking to the scientists now here. Have you ever seen a UFO?
I have not seen a UFO. Definitely not.
Have you ever seen anything you couldn't identify?
Yes. Yes, but I think they were rockets. So I used to live in on the West Coast in California. There is crazy stuff in the sky all the time. The craziest color stuff
Yeah.
you'd ever seen, and it doesn't look like jet contrails. I don't know what it is, but it's beautiful. It's awesome, and the government's not going to tell us what it was most of the time. So, but there are a lot of rockets that that go up that way. So,
Yeah.
I think it could be those kind of contrails. But I haven't had the occasion to see anything. I didn't know what it was. But it sounds like, Rick, you may have. Do you have some secrets there in the past?
No, not a UFO, but I do believe in Bigfoot.
I tell you, I would like to. I think there are Bigfoot equivalents under the sea that just haven't been discovered yet.
Yeah.
Just crazy things just in the last few years. We got a substantiation of some amazing deep sea critters and things like that, and giant squid, and have washed up and things like that you don't see all the time. But
Yeah. Yep.
I think there's crazy stuff there. On land, though, I don't think so.
Well, Derryl,
My
you may not be able you may not be able to answer this, Derryl, but who came up or what was the idea behind the planet Xenom?
Okay, that's a good question, because it might have been my idea, and it might have been the idea of the sculptor, one of the Adventure Team sculptors named Larry Elig. So
Okay.
Larry Elig, if nobody knows who Larry is, he was a sculptor for us back in the 2000s, and he also is one of the biggest. I think he had one of the greatest movie monster poster collections that existed. And here he was working at Hasbro, and he had this insane, collection worth an insane amount of money. After Hasbro, I think he went and did a lot of monster sculpts, and I see him at conventions every once in a while. But I think that might have been Larry Elig's idea to do the Xenome and to do the 3 different sculpts of Xenome, which we could afford because it was 3 different head sculpts. It wasn't, 3 different body sculpts. So
Right.
that's the reason why we did the 3 sets, is Larry had an idea of 3 different monsters he wanted to do.
Well, awesome. We're learning some good stuff here.
And Rick, you're going to do some color treatments of the astronaut too, right?
I have changed the outfit, but unfortunately, they're buried somewhere.
And I've seen his pictures before. They're very unique. They're very unique.
I bought a couple of the astronauts, and they were in terrible shape, off of eBay. And I just said, well, let me make a red one and a green one, and they actually came out pretty good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, on that note, thank you so much for joining us. We've had a blast. Wish we could stay longer.
Hey, thanks,
Maybe
fellas. It was a great time.
Thank you.
Maybe we'll have you again sometime next year or something.
Sounds good. Thanks to everybody in the chat. It was really fun.
Really fun. Listen, thank you for coming. Please like, share, and comment. And always remember, toys are fun. Bye.